Hey, Grover here. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to something that has been on my mind in the last week or so. And that is this constant, insatiable need for people all across the cultural map, the map that we are seeing with our pop culture communities, the fandom, just among a lot of fandoms, this idea like I have to have something new. It has to be good. I'm really disappointed in what Disney is doing. I'm really disappointed with Marvel and what Warner Brothers is doing with DC and all that. And don't get me started on Star Wars. Now, believe me, I share these feelings with you and I want to empathize with you there. But this need to just have something new, like I have to watch the new stuff. I know I'm not going to like it. Now, I advise don't watch it anyway because you know it's going to be bad. But there's this real, this kind of chemical, this dopamine, this kind of addiction that people say, you know what, I still want new stuff and I want to be part of a community that is celebrating new stuff. And I'm all for celebrating new things. The current phenomena is Eric July, aka Young Rippa with his Rippaverse. And I really commend his work and his effort and the effort of his team just establishing a new universe with new stories, which is awesome. Now, I don't read graphic novels and I don't read comics. I know many people in this community, in this audience here, thank you for watching. I know you guys do read comics and the like. So while it's not really my medium to turn to as far as good stuff, I'm really glad that the alternatives are, growing and sprouting and cultivating in our culture. So that is great. But we still have a long time before we get to being competitive with the likes of Disney, for instance. And I think a lot of people have been quite feverish getting to the new stuff. And I just really want to recommend go back to the old stuff. I really can't recommend enough. Like I'm saying this from my heart, from my feelings, that you need to just enjoy while you're waiting for the new stuff, while you're waiting for the alternatives, to get back to the old stuff. Now, this can come in the form of an old classic film, an old show, and it doesn't even have to be that old. Like, for goodness sake, like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., seasons 1 through 5. I haven't seen 6 or 7 yet. Awesome. Watch that. But, the old films, the old shows, old books, for goodness sake, read a book. Now, with me and my recent experience in the last couple of months, I have been reading a lot of short fiction. Some are good, some stories are good, some are not so good, some are quite terrible. But I pick up some gems from time to time. But my most recent experience has been this game. So I finished Secret of Mana, which was not so great. I'm a retro gamer. I explore old SNES games. I guess people say SNES. I heard that. I'm not going to say SNES. I'm going to say SNES. But, I started playing this game. We're going to talk about the experience of going back to old classics. I recently picked up this game about a month ago, a little over a month ago, that I have just absolutely enjoyed. Never heard of it until like a month ago. And I said, I have this on the retro box. I'm going to try it. And it's called Terranigma. And I haven't finished the game. I still have a long way to go. But as far as story, gameplay, objective, graphics, music, sound design, so far it is A+ all across the board. And I've been this is the kind of game, and I'll talk more about this game specifically, but this has been the kind of game that has been I have been immersed in this game. It's weird to say that because it's like 8-bit or 16-bit, like the sprites are quite limited, it's you see the pixels, it's Super Nintendo. It's like what we see with Final Fantasy 5, 4, 5, and 6. And it doesn't matter because I'm lost in the world. I picture myself in that world. I picture myself in the role of Ark, the protagonist, and what he has to do, what he has to set out to achieve to save the world. And it's just been wonderful. I'll say this probably another time, but I'll just say it right now before I forget. This game really plays like an old folk tale. Like you're playing a game, like you're playing a really simple story you're hearing at a fire, like chatting by a campfire, just or maybe you're in a tavern sitting next to a fire, but it's like you're playing a game that is a story. It's a very beautiful, very simple game. And this was made in 1995. It has aged very, very well. It's a wonderful game. So Terranigma, if you're a retro gamer like me, Terranigma. So far, I haven't finished it, so things could, take a turn for the worse, but so far it's great. And my experience with Terranigma is just really telling me, it's like I have never needed the new stuff. I've never needed the new phone. I've never needed the new console. I've never needed the new computer. I've never needed to know why do you say that? I've never needed a new car. Like I've never needed the new. I've never needed the new and exciting. But even more so now that I'm thoroughly enjoying an old game like Terranigma, it really speaks to my heart. And I want to, I'm saying this from my heart, saying, you know what, go back to the old and reward those people who put their heart and soul into making great games and great stories, writing great novels, making good films. Like, we're in a culture now. I mean, we've been in this kind of culture for a number of years now, where people's like, well, I can't go to the old stuff. I want to hope for the best for things like Disney, because they're the machine that churns up new stuff, and I've got to watch the new stuff, and I know it's gonna be bad, but I hope it's gonna be good because I have to be in the know and I have to be in the new. It's like this really crazy feverish idea, the feeling of FOMO, fear of missing out. Like I've got to be in this community, and I've got to talk about stuff. I got to talk about the news. I think Twitter and Facebook especially has really cultivated that idea, and it's like, you know what? Be by yourself. You don't have to be in a clique, and just go enjoy something. Even if the world would never enjoy a thing that you would enjoy. Like if the world never enjoyed the game Terranigma, and Terranigma was as good as it is, regardless, I would still enjoy it. Like I wouldn't have to be in a community. I wouldn't have to talk to anyone about it. I would just enjoy it for the sake of enjoying for what it is. And because of that, I am rewarding the makers of the game. They won't ever know who I am. Maybe they'll come across this video someday. But the makers of that game, put their heart into it, and I want to reward their service. I want to reward their time. I want to reward their attention to detail, attention to craft, because it's like, wow, they made a good game. And I think that should be true of all things that we enjoy. When you go back to Tolkien, not what Amazon's interpretation of Tolkien, not what New Line's interpretation. I'm sorry, like whatever's happening with New Line and Warner Brothers. No, I'm not talking about that. Even if it's good, which I know it won't be. Even with Peter Jackson behind it, it's not going to be good. Sidebar. But going back to Tolkien, reading the Silmarillion, it's a wonderful story. I've read it a few times. Well, it's really an anthology. Like it reads as a creation story. It reads as almost like the biblical history of Middle Earth. And that's Tolkien. And honor him with reading him. Honor him by reading him. Honor him by reading his works, whether that's every year, like we had heard Christopher Lee do that one time. I think at one point it was mentioned in the making of the Peter Jackson films, the original trilogy, that Christopher Lee would read The Lord of the Rings once a year, every year. You don't have to be that, but that's honoring Tolkien. Do something like that. Rather than, why would you want to forgo honoring a master artist? Forgo that on behalf of someone who really doesn't deserve your time or attention or money. And more importantly, you're rewarding someone who hates you. You're rewarding people who make things like this Velma show that's not Velma. I don't know much about it, but from the little I've heard, that's not Velma, okay? That's not Scooby-Doo, okay? Go back to the Hanna-Barbera. Go back to the cartoonists who made that world and those characters beloved to begin with. Go back to the old Munsters, go back to the old Addams Family. I mean, just go back to the old stuff and keep rewarding the people behind that craft and behind that legacy. You don't need the new stuff if it's not good. I really would, for the sake of your soul, for the sake of your spirit, and for the sake of your psychology, go back to the good, because the good is the remedy of hard times. If you're facing hard times, whether personally or whether we're facing hard times, as a nation or politically speaking, you can't go wrong with going back to the good. So don't sedate yourself with this kind of, feverish fear of missing out. Like, I've got to see the new stuff, or I've got to even talk about the new stuff. I've kind of lost interest completely. Like I might talk about something, like speculate about something, but I just, after reading old classic science fiction for a few months and playing old retro games that are really good, and Secret of Mana wasn't good, at least from my experience, it wasn't good, but I still liked the experience of exploring something I wasn't familiar with. Just reward yourself with the discovery of the old. Go back to the treasure trove of old good art. That's the pretty much the slogan, the mantra of my channel is preserve the good art that you love. Keep preserving and producing and promoting the good art you love. And so that's coming from my heart. I would just say, I know a lot of you out there, I know a lot of you listening, say, oh yeah, I do go back to the old stuff. And that's good. That's good. While we wait for the alternative, while we wait for more people like Eric July producing different content and different stories. Hey, I'm writing stories. Professor Geek is writing stories. While you're waiting for us, just enjoy the old good stuff. And that's all I have to say. So thank you so much for watching and listening, and I will catch you later.